Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Bhagavate Shri Swaminarayanaya Namaha. Om Shri Hari Krishna Maharajaya Namo Namaha. Om Shri Sahajananda Swami Maharajaya Namo Namaha. Shri Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Welcome to SwaminarayanSpirituality.com and all related materials that are available online. This is Sachin Karnik. I want to offer my prostrations to Bhagavan Shri Swaminarayan and to all the Paramahansas during the time of Maharaj, all the incarnations of God, all the bona fide Guru Paramparas that are present in the world today, at taking the dust from the lotus feet of all the great sages and of the Supreme Lord on my head. And on that basis, with that prarthana, we're continuing here today further exposition on the question of Shri Govardhan Bhai, who is a householder devotee of Shriji Maharaj, on the question of Maya and the answer that Shriji Maharaj has given. Just as a quick review, the answer that Shriji Maharaj gave in Gujarati is as follows. Pachi Shriji Maharaj bolya je, Bhagwan no bhakta hoy, tene Bhagwan ni murti nu dhyan karta je padarth adu avine avran kare, tene Maya kahiye. So this answer, as we have stated in several past recordings in considerable detail, answer is given with regards to the path of Bhakti Yoga. Vachanamrut advocates Bhakti Yoga or Upasana Yoga. So Maharaj is saying that when a devotee, a bhakta, is engaged in the meditation, the dhyan of Murti. Murti meaning the manifested form of God, either in human form during the time of the incarnations or Maharaj himself, and or the Archa Swarup, the 8 forms of Murti made out of painting or sand or stone or Panchadhatu, etc. There's 8 of them of this type. And then in Garada Pratham 68, Murti is also considered to be Ekantik saint, enlightened being who is holding God constantly, holding Parabrahma within every pore of one's being. And that is sometimes in Gujarati, it is called Navmi Murti, the 9th Murti. So an fully enlightened being is also a form of God. Bhagavan exists within that being. As per Vachanamrut teachings and Siddhant and Swaminarayan Tattvagnan, nobody becomes Parabrahma. Just as a quick reminder, one can become like Parabrahma. The Akshar Muktas are like Parabrahma, but they are not Parabrahma. Nobody is Parabrahma except that one Advitiya Tattva. So that is called Vishishtadvait, Brahma Vishishtadvait, etc. Alright, so on that basis, Maharaj is giving a very practical answer about dhyan, and I want to go into this further based on the footnotes that are there in the BAPS app. I'll be using that as a reference point. I want to put a disclaimer here first that Sachin here and the SwaminarayanSpirituality.com website and all related materials do not promote or criticize any sanstha, any religious organization, any Guru Parampara. There's no attempt to promote or criticize anyone. I'm using this as a reference from the app, which is available for free for download, just as a researcher would be referencing any external source, right? So on that basis, now my prayer to anybody who is in any of these organizations is to try to understand the spirituality and not be limited psychologically by organizational boundaries. Whatever organization one may be following, well and good. I'm going to do my best by the will of Bhagavan to present the actual teachings of Shriji Maharaj, the spiritual teachings, and then, of course, my own commentary will be here. The request is for you to have your own commentary and reflection. And at the same time, there is absolutely no advocating of any one organization versus another, but I will try to present even some of the organizational interpretations as to the best of my ability, whatever I have understood. And if anyone has any corrections, comments, or anything you want to say to further clarify the ideas presented. I would be happy to hear from you for my own personal development. So that's the disclaimer. So we're going to continue from last time, where we have been looking at the word dhyan, and in the app there is there's a series of notes inside the app. So last time we were looking at the answer that Maharaj gave, and then the various interpretations of that answer. Just as a quick reminder, the answer is where Maharaj is saying that everything that causes an obstruction, adu avine avaran kare, tene maya kahe. What is maya? That which is obstructing this unbroken connection with Bhagavan. It is obstructing akhanda vritti. We've talked about that before in the first paragraph, in that analysis. So avaran is, it is vigna, it is viksheep. Vigna meaning that which is causing an obstacle, that which is causing a blockage. Vikshep meaning that which is causing a disturbance. Right? So all of those ways to understand this word avaran. It's a very powerful sentence, and we have just been looking at this sentence for the last many recordings, and we'll continue to do so for a while. So moving ahead from where we were last time, remember what Yogiji Maharaj stated. This is in the app. The quotation is placed in the app. Where Yogiji Maharaj stated, Bhagavan ane santana mahimano vichar karvo te dhyan. So he gave a definition of dhyan. This is his interpretation. Other saints in Swaminarayan Sampradaya have given theirs also. Again, I'm really, from my heart, please understand, I'm not trying to promote any organization. Unfortunately, in the Sampradaya, there is all kinds of back and forth disturbance among these sanstha's, and that is truly unfortunate. So my only prayer is that people can see beyond all that, try to find the good things from each other. It's really, really very, very unfortunate that is going on in the entire Sampradaya even today. But leaving that aside, that is part of Maya actually. This dislike for each other, not trying to understand each other, not trying to find good qualities of each other. That is nothing but Maya. That has nothing to do with spirituality or the teachings of Sriji Maharaj or Sanatan Dharma or anything like that, right? So pure and 100% Shuddha Divya Adhyatma is being presented here. So when I give these quotations, try to grasp the teaching. And if you agree with it, fine. If you don't, I want to hear from you. And I'm trying to grow here also. Okay, so please, many danvats to all who are listening with all this bhavana. Now let's continue. Bhagwan ane santana mahimano vichar karvo te dhyan. So he's saying here to sit down for dhyan with an intention to contemplate, to use the mind to contemplate on the glory, the extraordinary glory, meaning mahatmya, mahima. Mahima means the extraordinary, glory is what comes to my mind right now. But that, of who? Of God, of Bhagavan and Sant. And remember, the word Bhagavan throughout Swaminarayan Sampradaya is referring to Parabrahman. It's referring to Aksharatit Purna Purushottam Narayana. That is how this word Bhagavan is being used throughout the Vachanamrut. Sometimes Bhagavan, we say Bhagavan Krishna, Bhagavan Ram, those are avatars. As per Gunatitanand Swami and Gopalan Swami's interpretation and recognition of Shriji Maharaj, that they saw him as the avatari, and this is a whole different subject altogether. It's not a different subject, but it's a more advanced subject than what we're even talking about right now. It's connected to this, no doubt. That is about avatar and avatari, that whole distinction between the two and the different viewpoints. We'll cover that when we get there at some point. I'm just mentioning it just briefly here because that is discussed mostly in Swaminarayan Sampradaya. You don't find even these words in other Sampradayas as much. You do in some, no doubt. So for example, in the ISKCON Sampradaya, the Hare Krishna movement, you find that Krishna Bhagavan is considered to be avatari. He's the source of all incarnations, right? So things like that are mentioned in Vachanamrut also, but we'll get to all that much later on. That is a much more tattva gnan discussion about avataras and what is avatari. But leaving that aside for the time being, here Yogiji Maharaj is talking about Mahima. And of course, the question of avatar avatari comes into that. So that is part of the Mahima. You see, this is what happens in Vachanamrut. You start one word even, and a million other ideas are connected inside that one word. Right? So anyway, but let's try to stick to the point here. I'm telling myself only. Bhagwan ane santna mahimano vichar karvo te dhyan. To sit for meditation for half an hour or 1 hour and just to visualize the glory of true saints. Now, how to do this? So I'll give you a simple example. Bhagavad Gita lists many divine qualities. You can go through them. In chapter 16, the divine qualities are listed. And recognize that these qualities are present in enlightened beings. Bhakta Chintamani has many, many places where these qualities of enlightened saints are listed. There are the 64 qualities written in the Hari Gita, in Satsangi Jivan. Many other scriptures also have saintly qualities that are talked about. Right? So to bask in the glory of those saintly qualities, and if one has a guru, Satpurush, who has all of them, then to see them, to perceive them, and to think about them. Vichar karo, that's what Yogiji Maharaj is saying. To think of each quality. I'm not going to go through them right now. We would need many days to go through all that, maybe years even. It's that extensive. But each of those 64 qualities, if they are present in one individual to their highest level, then that is called Purna Sadhu. That means a fully blossomed sage. Saintliness has blossomed from within completely. Not all people who are wearing those orange clothes or saffron clothes or any whatever color is. It doesn't mean it's not by clothes. People have good qualities. Everyone has some good qualities. And particularly those on the spiritual path, the devotees like myself and others, our only job is to find the good qualities, the saintly qualities, and to separate out any deficiency. We might know there's deficiency. That is between their guru and Bhagwan. That is not for us to try to improve that person or to even see that, to not see that quality, to not focus on that quality. We may see it, but we don't focus on that quality. Not focusing on the negative quality or some deficiency of another devotee, another sadhak, another bhakta, and in general any human being, to not focus on that allows for an individual to reach that stage of mahima. Yogiji Maharaj is giving the foundation that when you have great saints like Gunatitan Swami, Gopalan Swami, or Raman Maharishi, or Paramans Yoganand, or whoever it might be, Ramakrishna Paramans, or Jesus, or Guru Nanak, whoever the enlightened beings may be, what is their glory? When we think about that, we become purified. And that purification happens by the concentration of the mind on those qualities. And that concentration of the mind on the qualities of the great sages, that concentration is dhyan. So Yogiji Maharaj gave a definition of dhyan that way. And I'm just expounding on that here. See, mahima. What is the mahima? The word mahima means the extraordinary glory, asadharan mahima, extraordinary glory, the greatness, the spiritual altitude, if you want to put it that way. I'm sure there's other synonyms that would be appropriate here. So to utilize our mental power for basking in the glory of enlightened sages. So this is Santano Mahima, and then there's Bhagwan no Mahima. There's two types of Mahima here. The glory of God is what? God meaning Bhagwan, meaning Aksharatit Parabrahma. The first point is he's beyond Akshara Brahma. That Parabrahma Tattva is beyond Akshara Brahma. It is one. It is not male or female. It is a Kishore Murti. Described in this way by Sriji Maharaj, it is a form that is 16 years of age. It's not really age like our age, but that is how it looks, basically. It can take any form. That Paramatma can take any form at any time. That's another whole discussion. But in the Mool Swarup is Kishore Murti. Kishore doesn't mean male or female here. It is Satchidananda Vigraha, but it is even much more subtler and beyond Akshara Brahma. which is itself a remarkable, much more tattvic discussion at some point in the future. But that is part of the Mahima. That Bhagavan that is present in front of the devotees, like Govardhan Bhai. So there's 2 or 3 ways to understand the answer of Shriji Maharaj. In a more generic sense, we can just say in an abstract sense that yes, God is somewhere and just we're thinking about the glory of God. Like in Christianity, there's the transcendent God that is talked about. And then there's the manifestation of God as Jesus. Right? So you'll see a lot of parallels between many Christian doctrines and Vachanamrut. There's a phenomenal connection. I mean, I'll go through that also to some extent. See, Jesus is called the incarnation. Actually, that word is used, incarnation. We use the word avatar. But, it's a manifestation. It's the incarnate. So similarly, Shriji Maharaj was considered during the time of the Paramahansas as the human manifestation of that Purana Purushottam Narayan Parabrahma that is beyond Akshara Brahma, has taken a human form. Right? So this is the root understanding even in the Sampradaya today. Right? So again, there's a lot of history and it's quite extensive to explain that. But just for our purposes right now, we'll leave it at that. That is the manifested form. Now, of course, enlightened saints are also manifested. If one has pratyaksha guru, pratyaksha means that you can see with your eyes, you hear his or her words with your ears, right? So the enlightened sage can be a male or a female. That is written in one of the Vachanamruts. That the enlightened sage can be male or female, actually, believe it or not. So that is a more generic description. Some people just say our Guru Parampara is a male Parampara and that's it. Okay, that's fine. I mean, for those Paramparas, it is okay. But Shriji Maharaj, in his time, made temples for the ladies and had given Diksha as Sankhya Yogis for the females. And they're there today. Their Paramparas are there today also in the original Swaminarayan Sampradaya. It is there. So that is called Sankhya Yogi Diksha, Benoni Diksha, like that. That is there, right? So in an organization like BAPS, they don't give that formal initiation to the ladies, but they can live that kind of life if they want. So there's ways of doing that still, right? And in other organizations, it may be present in their own way. So my point is simply that true sage can be anybody. It can also be a child. It can be a 7-year-old child, or it could be a 7-year-old girl. It could be an 80-year-old man or 80-year-old female. It can be anybody. It can be a grahastha. It can be a tyagi sadhu. It can be absolutely any human being, right? So enlightened sage, that enlightened state can be anyone. But there is a distinction between those who have become perfected and those who are born perfected. That's the difference. Those who are born perfected are the muktas, enlightened beings that come and take human form. And those who become perfected go from mumukshu to mukta, from the desire for liberation into a liberated state. Right? So those who reach the state of liberation, they were in ajnan at some point, in this very life perhaps, but then they've reached saintliness. So you can remember them also. Remember all great sages. Okay, so anyway, it is better to be very careful about this though. It's important to see good qualities and all, but one has to be careful about who to become attached to. So when you're doing dhyan of the sage, it's not that you're doing dhyan of the saint. It's the qualities that the sage is emitting, that is what you're meditating on, not the form of the sage. Now, in the form of the true sage, Bhagavan manifests, and you can see Bhagavan in the sage. Up to that point is okay. But no sage takes the place of God. No sage takes the place of Paramatma, Bhagavan. So that's why Bhagavan anesant, Bhagavat Swarup is what is the Dheya Murti. So the meditation dhyan is on the murti. The reason the saint is talked about again and again, because those qualities, we need them. We need them to move further in the spiritual dimension towards Paramatma. And saintliness is the rocket ship. It's the fuel that will take us, and the rocket ship that will take us towards the Akshardham and the Dhami. That is, without saintliness, there's no progress in the spiritual path at all. Right, so these are some ideas on this occasion. Now, there's a couple more points here. Yogiji Maharaj has made one more statement, they referenced one more statement about this in this app. Apne seva karta hoye, tyare mahimano vichar kariye te dhyanat chhe. So when you're doing seva or activity, see, actually in a broader sense, any action we do, if we consider that as seva, that you're doing it to please the Lord, and just offer the entire action to Bhagavan, and while doing so, bringing inside the glory of Paramatma, that mahimano vichar, to think of the greatness and glory of Bhagavan and sages while the activity is going on time and time again, that is another type of dhyan. So that's a beautiful way of connecting the karma yoga into dhyan, because dhyan is no longer just sitting in front of a murti or sitting in a temple or sitting in just yogic path. Dhyan is actually at all times, in every action there is a connection with Paramatma by not focusing on the egotistical, ego-driven activity at all. Then Yogiji Maharaj says here further, Mahima vicharta khetar nokriye dhande jata hoye te dhyanachi. He says, you're going into the farming activity, like in the villages, or you're going for job somewhere, nokri is job, or business somewhere, right? In the worldly realm, all of these things are done to maintain our householder life, etc. Otherwise, you cannot maintain anything. You have to work in the world in some form or another. So, to maintain that glory, that vichar, mahimanu vichar, the presence of Paramatma, God is anvay, vetirik, those are more tattvik vichar. Many ways of doing this. We'll get to that next time. That is also dhyan. So now we have multiple ways that dhyan is described. In each action, there is glory and significance and presence of God. That's one type of mahima. The saintliness that is imbibed within through the sages, that's another type of mahima. Right? It's all type of dhyan. So dhyan is so extensive this way. And if we are linked in that without any kind of a breakage, so then there's no avran. The avran that comes from inside of us only. Avran meaning the obstruction. Avrana Shakti. That is Maya. There's Vikshep Shakti and Avran Shakti. And I want to cover that later on from the Vedantic texts actually. But Sriji Maharaj is giving this in terms of very, very practical modality. That if you want to connect with Bhagavan, dhyan is the way to do that. But dhyan doesn't just happen. Bhajan, Kirtan, Manan, Chintan, other things are there in the beginning stages, and then that leads to a much more absorption of the mind inside the murti. Right? So that is some contemplation today on continuing contemplation on the question of Maya. We will spend some more time on this. There's many more angles to look at. And by the will of the Paramatma, we'll continue exposition on a daily basis on this further and further until we can try to cover as many angles as possible on this question of Maya and Dhyan and what is the Avrana as Sriji Maharaj has described it. With that, Shri Swaminarayanaya Namo Namaha, Shri Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha.